Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel on helping you find your best emotional and physical health possible. My name is Erin, and I'm here to bring you as much information as possible to help you achieve what you are looking for. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button and share this video with anyone that you think might need the information. Also, please don't forget to download my free 5 videos on the tips to your best emotional and physical health. So with that said, let's get started on today's topic. So this is the 5th organizing principle for our developmental trauma series, where we've kind of been discussing how people have these developmental ruptures across the course of their childhood that result in these survival styles and how they connect to people as adults and how that can create problems both in their mental health and in relationships. So this last one is the love and sexuality trauma style. And these people are interesting because they are usually very energetic, very attractive, very successful, but they still struggle inside because they can't meet with their own high expectations. They're always striving for more. So it creates this sense of failure. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit detail. So this particular rupture occurs in actually 2 phases in life. Can happen from approximately age 4 to 6 or 12 to 15, kind of depending on the child. So we are all wired to connect with love and sexuality, but if some of that stuff is rejected at an early age or made to feel shameful and all of that, then children will end up with this disconnection between love and sexuality. A lot of the times that it's the opposite sex parent that kind of causes some rejection. Sometimes if they don't know how to deal with their child's emerging sexuality or some of the questions that they ask. The other kinds of things that will help this develop is the kind of idea that love is conditional based on behavior, and you can't get good love without proper behavior. These families also tend to be rigid with a lot of rules, and emotions are not communicated very clearly. So that's how that kind of develops, and it kind of develops into 2 different subtypes. We have the romantic subtype, which is the one that really idealizes love and marriage, but they can often disconnect from their sexuality, and that's like a whole separate thing, and they become very almost moralistic, where in some cases prudish, where once you become that Madonna figure that you cannot have sex with the person that you love or the person that you're connected to. And there's a shame associated with that. The other type that comes out is the sexual subtype. And that's the one that's kind of seductive, but it's not about control like it is in the last type that we talked about, in the autonomy and the trust ones. But it's really to avoid intimacy, okay? And it's really designed to separate from the actual love relationship and just get that need met. Sometimes these people can be almost obsessed with sex because they are trying to get a need met, but they seek that satisfaction that just can't be handled because they've kind of got this defended heart and this defended body where they cannot allow themselves to connect with the person at the heart level because the love and sexualities are separate. And so when they start actually having that connection, that heart connection to someone, the sexual interest goes down because they have in their mind that they can't do that and that those 2 things should not be connected. So some of the shame identifications that can be seen in these people are their hurt, rejection, failure, unlovable, those kinds of things. Their pride-based identifications, which are much more obvious, are like a thought that I'll never let anyone hurt me. They tend to reject first instead of get rejected. They need to be perfect, flawless, and seamless. Okay? So that's the image they're going to portray as what's important to them. So the kind of behaviors that you're going to see in someone that's struggling with this issue is a perfectionism. They are very hard on themselves. They're probably their own worst critics. They're also looking for continuous improvement. They might be working out all the time. They might be dieting all the time. They might be seeking plastic surgery all the time. That can be an issue. And like I mentioned earlier, they have difficulty connecting that heart and sexuality together. So they can also tend to exhibit very rigid behaviors, very compulsive behaviors, because that's what their family of origin grew up with. So, like I mentioned earlier, they also will can do that sexual acting out or that moralistic behaviors. So keep in mind that the true issue underneath is that they have this fear of surrender, and they are not going to surrender or open their heart to others because of their fear of that rejection, that surrender and rejection that go together. So goals for treatment, if you're a therapist that's watching this, is trying to help people. If you're someone that thinks you struggle with this issue and you want to go and get treatment, these are some of the things that you might consider as part of your overall goals for treatment. Typically, these types will show up for treatment due to problems in relationships because they're anxious about their capacity to have a relationship. So they want to continue to work through some of these issues. So one of the biggest things is, of course, get them to realize and heal that rejection, that they're not having current rejection, that's related to a trauma, and then you can heal that history, that very early rejection, usually from a parent. They also need to work on learning how to identify tender feelings and loving feelings, not only towards others, but towards themselves as well. And as with the other styles, they can always benefit from kind of deepening a bodily awareness where they may be storing a lot of those feelings. They need to become also mindful about how they are doers. And I think I forgot to mention this in the behavior one, where these people are doers. They they do things. That's the compulsion, right? They stay busy in order to avoid emotions. So they may need to explore some of that and about how they stay busy or stay doing things in order to avoid. Then they can kind of become vulnerable and realize what those things are. They also need to be educated and reminded that if they stay with this whole, like, I've got to be perfect thing, they are going to continue to feel rejection because perfection is just not something that's possible, so that they will continue to feel rejection either from themselves or others because there will always be that next step or that next thing they could be. Also, a good therapist will work with those rigid thought patterns where they have this expectation that things should be only a certain way, and especially regarding their thoughts and feelings about relationships. And then they can also work on their ability to feel, love, and heal those responses, as well as heal the shame of sexuality if that's part of the issue. Ultimately, they must realize that actually the surrender piece that they so fear is not about surrendering themselves to another person, whoever they're in love with, or their spouse, or whatever, or a parent for that matter, but it is about surrendering to their feelings and their experience to be really who they are and who they need to be. So, as always, hopefully this helps you understand some of the ruptures in this area a little bit. If you have any questions, please post them and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Also, as always, don't be afraid to subscribe and wait for more videos to come out. I will do a little bit of a summary regarding this whole series with a little bit more ideas for treatment and growth, and then we'll move on to some other topics that might be related to relationships, health, or whatever comes to mind. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.